Hey, Jordan Bench here, jordanbench.com. In this video, I answer the question, what is bone broth? Now, if you haven't heard of bone broth before, the first time that I heard of bone broth, I was a little grossed out because in my mind, I'm picturing here's a bowl of soup, and in that bowl of soup, there's bones in it. And it's just like, that doesn't really sound right. It sounds gross. Like, what am I doing? Why am I eating a bowl of soup with bones in it? But really, that's not what bone broth is. It's a completely different thing. And it actually tastes amazing and it's so amazing for our health. Now, I can remember back when I was little and I would get like the flu or I'd get sick, I'd have some type of cold, something going on in my body. And I remember like my parents or people in my family, they would always end up bringing me like chicken noodle soup. That was a way for them to like comfort me, to make me feel better, and to help me get over whatever I was going through. Now, that idea of bringing someone chicken noodle soup to help them get over like their sickness, it's not that far from the truth. Because if you go back like 100 years ago, that's actually what they would do, except they would use bone broth, not what we have today. What we have today is like out of the can. It's filled with artificial flavors. It's filled with like MSG. A lot of times it comes out of bouillon cubes, and it doesn't really provide much health benefit. But what like people did 100 years ago, they would use bone broth, and bone broth is where we get the idea of the whole chicken noodle soup. But the chicken noodle soup doesn't contain the bone broth. So this is amazing. Like what they would do, they would actually, like, let's say they had a chicken. Obviously, the chicken would be organic back then, but they would have the chicken. They would actually use the meat. They'd eat the meat. They'd do all that stuff with it. But then after they were done with the meat, they'd actually end up cooking the carcass down. They'd put the carcass in like a stock pot with water, and they would end up cooking it down over 12, 24, 48 hours. And they would do this at like a lower heat, like to where it was hot enough, but it wasn't coming to a boil or a simmer. They would do this for that long time. And what happened is, this is really cool. It would begin to extract the nutrients that were in and around the bones. So what was in and around it, it began to extract it, pull it out, and pull it into the water. So, for instance, like inside the bone, you have marrow and there's cartilage around the bone and everything. So that all begins to come out and then go into the water. So you're getting so many minerals in the water itself. I mean, it's so amazing how this works. So then what they would do is they would extract all the stuff that's left over, and they would end up, putting it into like a jar or something, and they would just let it sit. And what happens is once it sits, it turns into like this gelatin, like this jelly thing. If you can think of like Jello, how like the Jello consistency, it would turn into something like that. Now, me and my wife, we call this thing liquid gold because it's like a gold color, and it tastes amazing, and it's just awesome. And what you can do is you can actually take that and you can stick it in like rice, or you can stick it in a soup, or you can actually just drink it. Like, you'll have to cook it down again, like add water and cook it down, heat it up. You can actually drink it. So that's kind of like what we'll do with it, and it's actually amazing. Like, we love it. Now, here's what this does. Because it's extracted everything from the bones, you're now ingesting a lot of what has been pulled out, what has been excreted. And if you think about it, there's really no other way that we're able to get that kind of nutrition except from extracting it from the bones. You have to think, what does that do? It helps heal. It helps coat our joints, our ligaments, our tendons. It helps repair and rebuild those things. So if you're someone suffering with like arthritis, it's really going to help out that. Another thing too that it does is it really helps out in the area of your gut, because the collagen that is pulled out turns into a gelatin. The gelatin actually coats and soothes your gut lining. And when it does that, it begins to heal and it begins to protect your gut. And when that happens, if you have a leaky gut, it begins to heal that, allowing you to absorb more nutrients. Because if you have a leaky gut and you're eating healthy food, more likely you're not really absorbing a lot of those nutrients. So it's so important that we heal our gut, and bone broth is one of those ways to do it. It's also going to help with your hair, your skin, and your nails. It's going to help your immune system. Bone broth has so many amazing features. It's awesome. I can't stress it enough. Now, like what me and my wife will do is, after we cook it all down, and I do need to stress too, it needs to be like you can use chicken, you can use beef, you can use turkey, even fish, but it needs to be organic. There shouldn't be any antibiotics in it. It should be as natural as possible, because that's what we're ingesting into our bodies. So what we'll do is we'll take all that, and we'll cook it down. We'll go through the whole process, and we'll end up getting like, say, 2 mason jars full of it. And sometimes, you know, if we want to, we can just put it in the fridge and then we can end up drinking it later on, and we'll add water to it. And that's one way of doing it. We can also, like, once it's in the jar, we can pour it out and put it into an ice cube tray, and then we can freeze it. And then we'll put it into like a Ziploc bag, and then we'll hold on to it for whenever we need it, like later on down the road. So there's really a lot of different ways that you can do this. You can even buy it in a store now. They have it to where you can actually get bone broth in a store. You can buy it on the internet, and at some point in time, we'll have to give you some recommendations for different ways of getting it. Also, if you're wondering if you have a leaky gut, because leaky gut is so prevalent, it's like 80% of the population has leaky gut. That's a statistic that has been thrown out. If you're curious at all, if you have leaky gut, I actually created a quiz, and this quiz is going to help give you like a risk assessment of where your body is at with having a leaky gut, how much damage has been done to it. This quiz is not 100% accurate, but it is pretty accurate. I spent months and months doing research and putting this quiz together. So all you need to do is just answer like about 20 questions or so. You'll put your name and email in at the very end, and it'll give you your results. So I hope you liked this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up, give it a like. Also, if you have any questions, please comment below. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel already, please subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.